Modern desert survival advice is usually built around equipment. Hydration bladders, UV clothing, satellite navigation, and cooling fabrics dominate the conversation. Yet deserts were crossed, settled, traded across, and fought over long before any of this existed. People did not survive deserts by overpowering them with technology. They survived by understanding limits, behavior, and timing. History shows that desert survival was less about endurance and more about restraint. Movement was controlled, not continuous. One of the most dangerous myths about desert survival is, honestly, the idea of constant travel. Historical desert travelers moved in short, deliberate stages. Caravans, nomadic groups, and military columns all limited movement to specific windows, usually at night, early morning, or late evening. Midday travel was avoided whenever possible, not because it was uncomfortable, but because it was lethal. Stopping was not failure, it was strategy. Shade was treated as infrastructure. Even a slight shadow from rock or brush was used to halt movement and conserve water. People accepted immobility as a survival tool. So, water management was really about loss prevention, not just intake. Before canteens and purification systems were around, survival in arid environments depended more on preventing water loss than on actually finding more water. People wore loose and layered clothing to reduce evaporation and, head coverings protected the face and neck from the direct sun. They would also minimize mouth breathing and, interestingly, speech was kept to a minimum. People would ration their exertion, not their water. They understood that, honestly, drinking more while sweating faster only made dehydration come on more quickly. Historical accounts, time and again, show that disciplined pacing was the primary method for saving water. Clothing, in fact, worked as a form of climate control. Desert clothing wasn't minimal at all. It was actually insulating. Loose, breathable layers trapped cooler air near the skin and helped reduce radiant heat. Light-colored fabrics reflected sunlight, and head coverings created shade, reducing heat gain. Modern assumptions that less clothing equals cooler temperatures are actually contradicted by every long-lived desert culture. Coverage, not exposure, kept people alive. Shelter was, temporary and opportunistic. Desert shelter was rarely permanent. It was built quickly, used briefly, and abandoned without sentiment. Travelers used terrain features, wind direction, and sun angle to place themselves out of exposure. Even shallow depressions reduced wind and heat. Ground insulation really mattered. Sitting or lying directly on hot ground accelerated heat transfer. Mats, vegetation, or packs were used to break contact. Before GPS, desert navigation depended on memory and repetition. Routes were learned, not discovered. Landmarks were subtle but consistent. Ridges, star paths, and wind-shaped terrain, Travelers avoided improvisation. Getting lost in the desert was catastrophic. Historical survival depended on not needing to explore. Eating increased metabolic heat and water demand. Desert travelers often ate lightly during travel periods and more during rest. Fatty foods were favored because they provided sustained energy without large volume. Hunger was tolerated, heat stress was not. Travelers moved in groups not for protection, but for stability. Groups enforced pacing, shared shade, and corrected mistakes. Individuals who pushed ahead or lagged behind were at greater risk. Leadership in desert travel emphasized restraint, not speed. Modern advice often assumes that gear will compensate for behavior. But if we look back through history, it actually shows the opposite. Gear fails, water runs out, and batteries die, but behavior, that always remains. People survived deserts by respecting limits, not challenging them. If you strip away modern equipment, desert survival still comes down to the same principles. Move less, rest more, cover up, protect water by controlling effort, and avoid improvisation. These lessons kept people alive long before technology existed. Deserts have not changed, our expectations have. If you value survival knowledge grounded in what actually worked for centuries, subscribe to the channel and share this with others who want history's lessons, not modern myths.